Guys, welcome back to game two. It's going to be Cutie Pie's lineup on the blue side versus Nightblue and his team. Right off the bat, we see Akali banned away from that sub, the Psych. The Psych coming in so strong. Just going to refer to him as Psych from now on. A little easier for me. Just coming in so strong on that Akali. I think he ended 10-2 and 4. Doing so much work in every single one of those team fights. Probably more than that, actually. Got a few kills in the last end of battle there. Nidalee also banned away from RF Legendary. Not looking to give him any comfort picks. Rek'Sai. Oh yeah, RF Legendary is back, guys. Cutie Pie brought him in as a sub, as well as the Jungle Master Azingi. So Cutie Pie's lineup is Cutie Pie, I am Matlife, the Hook God. Of course, that Blitzcrank banned away from him. Zerbic as the ADC, RF Legendary in the top lane, and I'm guessing most likely Azingi in the jungle. Curious to see, though, we do see Azir banned away from Golden Glue. Golden Glue having a very supportive role on the team last game, but overall an insane game, 1-0 and 8 last time I got to check, and Gnar banned out as well. Obviously, Nightblue's team giving a lot of respect to RF Legendary's Gnar. RF Legendary spending most of the game at 5-0 and 0. Cutie Pie immediately picking up that Thresh pick as it was left open. Thresh for I Am Matlife is going to be huge here. I Am Matlife showing yesterday why his Blitzcrank was so strong, landing constant hooks, giving Cutie Pie an easy win, and overall just a very, very competent player, and obviously very good at hooks. So excited to see this one. Love his Thresh play. Not quite as exciting as Blitzcrank just because the Thresh hook doesn't have quite as much impact, but Thresh obviously a much safer pick, and Blitzcrank is, of course, banned away. 26 seconds left for Nightblue and Golden Glue to make their first picks. Curious to see exactly what they're going to decide to go with here. You know, the Psych has to pick a top laner, and all we've seen from him so far is Akali, and it looks like they might take Aurelia for him. Aurelia, a pretty safe, pretty defensive first pick. Not going to do too much in the laning phase, but as the game moves forward, she's going to have a huge impact, especially scaling into late game. Golden Glue grabbing that Graves pick. Graves, a pretty standard laner, has a pretty solid matchup against Lucian and Corki, so preemptively picking that makes a lot of sense. Isn't going to have a terrible matchup against too many of the AD carries present, and Ethel, of course, a very confident Graves player, has shown it in the past. Janna is still available as a pick. I'm surprised that that was not the pickup for the team overall. Maybe wanted to secure the Aurelia pick for themselves, but that seems unlikely given that RF Legendary is obviously a very good Aurelia, but picking that first is very risky. Gives RF Legendary the opportunity to counter picks. Now, counter picks not the end-all be-all, but definitely something to consider. Zerbic might pick up this Corki here. Not the best lane matchup for him if he's going into Graves, but can do a lot of work in the mid-game, especially once he gets that the power spike from Trinity Force, and obviously that rocket is just going to be so strong at level 6. Looks like in the jungle most likely for a Zingy, I'm assuming this is going to be a jungle Rengar pick, although it's not quite clear where it's going to go. Jungle Rengar obviously has a very hard time clearing the jungle, but as we transition into mid and late game, is still the Rengar, the same obnoxious Rengar 80 carries hate, and that I personally know and love. So it'll be interesting to see how Azingi decides to use that. Once again, we see Biofrost on Janna, getting that instead of Sona this game, so hoping for a little bit more of a performance for him. He's shown in the past how confident of a Janna player he can be, and this is going to be an exciting matchup. I Am Matlife and Biofrost, arguably the two best supports in this tournament, both playing champions they're very comfortable with. This bot lane is going to be kind of a bloodbath, honestly. Pantheon locked in most likely for Nightblue. They did hover over that Lee Sin. He did take that last game and had a pretty good impact for the team as a whole on that. But you know, Nightblue definitely much more comfortable on Pantheon as a jungler, and I'm excited to see exactly what he does with this. Pantheon also has a pretty good matchup against Rengar if Nightblue does decide to invade. Nightblue invaded last game against Trick with some pretty good success, and may try to do so again. Jax the hover over here for RF Legendary. That is most likely going to be the top lane if he decides to lock that in. Jax versus Aurelia, very common matchup. Jax can do pretty well in it and has similarly powerful late game scaling. Doesn't quite have the tenacity that Aurelia does, but gets a lot more resistances for his ultimate. So very strong character overall. Really interested to see how they use this, and it looks like Cutie Pie himself might be picking up the Victor. Once again, not a champion we see a whole ton of, but does provide excellent follow-up for the team. Can cancel a lot of abilities, namely the Pantheon Jump and the Janna Monsoon with the changes to Chaos Storm. But the Psych hovering over this Cassiopeia pick. Cassiopeia for Golden Glue would be... This would be the first time I've seen Cassiopeia in a long time. Golden Glue, a pretty defensive player, though. Won't be surprised to see that Orianna pick up. His Syndra is also available right now. So interested to see what they end up doing with this. Doubt Teemo's the lock-in, although, you know, I wouldn't put it past either of these teams. They do like to play some unconventional stuff. And please, no Ziggs. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have not gotten to experience watching a competitive game with Ziggs, I will tell you right now, he's just going to clear the waves. And Ziggs, admittedly, very strong champion, just not a very exciting champion to watch. Anivia, on the other hand, if he decides to lock that in, much, much more exciting. See if he gets his frogging on, flicking through every possible mid laner as if to make me wonder what is he going to pick. And I'm very confused. So, we'll see. What's it going to be, the Psych? Tell us a tale. And it's going to be that Orianna Falcon for Golden Glue. No surprises there. Golden Glue, when in doubt, likes to go defensive and has shown some pretty sweet skills on Orianna in the last couple of nights. Has gotten off, maybe not those great 5-man shockwaves that people look for, but has gotten great catches with single or double target shockwaves and has gotten his team pretty far ahead with those. Orianna also does very well in the late game with this Aurelia pick, as she can speed up Aurelia and also combine Aurelia's mobility with her own damage. And, of course, that Shockwave as well to keep people on top of her. Biofrost, as I mentioned earlier, on this Janna pick is going to be huge as well. The bot lane, ladies and gentlemen, is what we're going to be looking to focus most of our attention on. But also the top lane, because RF Legendary, did very well in lane last game, but ended up losing to the Psych. So the Psych and RF Legendary, very comparable players, both very strong individual mechanical top laners. And, this is where it's at. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Cutie Pie in the mid lane, not something we've seen a little bit of it, and he has played Victor in the past with little success, but this mid lane is going to be very defensive. Both characters having options for shields, both characters mostly looking to wave clear. So, like I said, focus mostly in the top and the bot lane this game. Nightblue may look to invade, however, given how risky Rengar's first clear is. Just without any real jungle items, Rengar tends to get very low, and obviously the new jungle is just so much stronger than the Season 4 jungle. So, curious to see how Zingy uses this jungle pick. Curious to see if Nightblue will invade, but mostly focus in the bot lane. Graves, Janna, Thresh, Corki, two very standard lanes. I am MattLife, though, on his most comfortable champion, and Biofrost on the best champion we've seen him play this entire tournament. A perfect game last night. Can he follow it up with another perfect game? Interested to see. Guys, we will be right back after this spectator delay and after we load into the game. But in the meantime, you can head on over to OMEN.gg and vote for the draft for next week's games. This is going to be the championship games coming up next week, and the draft will be held tomorrow at 4 p.m. if you want to see the results. But if you want to vote on the order, OMEN.gg, you could be entered to win, or you will be entered to win every time you vote one of those OMEN notebooks. And of course, huge shout out to our sponsors, HP and Intel. Thank you so much for helping us put this tournament on. We will be... Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Game 2, Week 4, Day 2 of the Omen encounter. It's going to be Cutie Pie's lineup coming in on the blue side against Nightblue and his squad. We've got Cutie Pie himself in the mid lane on that Victor. I am MattLife and Zerbic rocking out in the bot lane, Thresh Corki combo. RF Legendary in the top lane with that Jax pick, and of course is Zingy himself, one of our other substitutes. Pulling out the jungle Rengar. Curious to see how that's going to work. Nightblue, the team captain on the other side, playing jungle Pantheon. Golden Glue in the mid lane with that Orianna. Biofrost and Ethel, a bot lane combo we saw very successful last game. Biofrost on a little bit more comfortable champion with Janna this time. And Ethel, of course, on Graves, a champion he's played a few times in this game. And then the Psych, one of our other sub players for this week, getting to battle it out again with RF Legendary in the top lane. Now, keep in mind, RF Legendary was pulled in as a sub as the player pool is a bit limited this week. People still on holiday. A lot of people still obligated to hang out with their families. Makes sense. So, RF Legendary pulled in to sub this game in the top lane as Jax. And, of course, Aurelia from the Psych. The Psych we saw play Akali last game and pretty much solo carry Nightblue's team to victory. Just doing so much damage in those team fights. Playing so phenomenally well. And RF Legendary, despite being 5-0-0 on Gnar in the early to mid game, wasn't able to get the team fights he wanted to transition that into a late game victory. So, curious overall to see exactly how this game is going to pan out. But as I mentioned earlier, this bot lane is where I'm going to be focusing most of my attention, as I'm a fan of all of these players in this tournament, or it's all these bot lane players in this tournament, and definitely these supports especially. Golden Glue starting with the shield early, trying to be a little bit defensive against Cutie Pie. Cutie Pie opting to start with the laser. We'll burn through mana quickly with that option, but we'll also push the wave and get level 2 sooner, most likely. Looks like RF Legendary confident in his ability. This is something that actually we've seen him do against Aurelia before, regardless of the champion. He starts a jungle camp because Aurelia does not really have good pushing power early in the game, and then backs, picks up a few extra pots, maybe an extra item, and then is going to immediately TP back into the top lane. This gives him a little bit more options, helps him to get to level 2 about the same time, and then also catch the wave on the turret. So good strategy overall from RF Legendary. This looks like it is going to work out for him. He's not going to lose too much for that. You see that he does have 3 CS to Aurelia's 8, but his 3 CS that he's gotten so far are worth significantly more. I Am Matlife immediately playing aggressive with level 2, is going to toss the hook out there. Those are the hooks we come to expect. Biofrost, of course, throwing that tornado back to defend. Ethel getting aggressive on I Am Matlife. Matlife has to be careful here. Double ward in the bush. A little bit of a miscommunication there. Both players responding very quickly, though. And overall, about an even trade. And at this point, you know, I Am Matlife getting that Targon's Brace means next time he has a stack, he will be able to get a little bit of the health back and does have a few pots to burn through here as well. So this bot lane, very aggressive. Good on Zerbic and I Am Matlife to play super aggressive here at level 2. And I Am Matlife landing that pretty clutch hook onto Biofrost to keep that trade going. So exciting, exciting stuff. Meanwhile, in the top lane, RF Legendary and the Psyche, neither one particularly eager to all-in the other, both more than content just to farm up and wait for the late game. RF Legendary now significantly, well, not significantly, has a small CS lead, 4 at this point. And then, of course, in the mid lane, we see Golden Glue with a 5 CS lead over PewDiePie. Curious to see exactly how that lane matchup will work out. Victor, not something we've seen a whole ton of. Champion I have a small amount of experience with. You definitely say that he has a decent Orianna matchup, but when it comes to the late game, Orianna's kind of queen. You know, she does a lot of damage, has pretty solid scaling on her abilities, and when you get to very, very late game, she can get those 5-man shockwaves, or just use a single combo and probably pop one of the enemy AD carries, or one of the enemy carries, so Zerbic, or perhaps a Zingy, depending on how a Zingy wants to build this game. A Zingy going for that, going for the clear speed upgrade for his machete there. Makes a lot of sense. As I mentioned earlier, Rengar does have a bit of a difficult time clearing, but the downside of that, of course, is that Nightblue is going to have much stronger ganks in this early game with that Chilling Smite. So, curious to see exactly how this is going to work out. You see both people committed to the top lane. Is the Psyche going to see this? Not entirely sure. The Psyche having a pretty substantial health pool with that Doran's Blade start. What exactly is going to happen here? Not clear. Zingy does have blue buff and has full ferocity. Can keep the Psyche locked down if he needs to. Looks like they're going to go full aggressive here. The Psyche getting blown up very, very quickly. RF Legendary positioning himself so that he can dive into the tower if necessary, but I think they're more than happy to just get the flash there and walk away pretty much for free. Did have to give up 1 or 2 CS for that exchange, but 1 or 2 CS for a flash is a good trade that anyone could take. RF Legendary now looking very dominant in this lane. And that hook coming in for I Am Matlife, so impressive there, does get it through the minion wave. I Am Matlife continuing to play aggressive Zerbic, not opting to take the Lantern. It looks like that trade is not going to continue anymore. Nightblue trying to invade onto a Zingy, knows he has the advantage here in the matchup. The Zingy in trouble. Nightblue getting that guaranteed crit out, and I Am Matlife throwing a hook for some reason in a random direction. So, good decision making from Nightblue to follow up, knowing a Zingy was low in his own jungle, knowing that he as Pantheon has advantage in that matchup. And of course, this bot lane as aggressive as ever. Matlife constantly throwing out those hooks, landing most of them. And but good on Biofrost and good on Ethel to position so well and to stop such hard engages. We're seeing a little bit of hesitation from Zerbic, which I think is going to be a big issue for him. Zerbic, of course, a very confident Graves player. Not quite so confident on Corki, but overall, I'm hoping to see an excellent performance from him. Hopefully he can play more aggressive as Matlife tends to go in, but it's always difficult in this situation because despite the fact that Corki has pretty substantial burst, he lacks the attack speed increase that Graves get on his quick draw. So, tough to all in a lot of those situations, but when you have a Thresh in your lane, you don't really have a choice. You need to play aggressive or you're going to get behind. Mid lane matchups staying pretty even, 40 to 42. PewDiePie's favor. PewDiePie looking like he was going to rush an early, well, could be Umbrella Nomicon, could be that Unholy Grail. Now that it's patch 4.21, that got a little bit of a buff, up to 2% of missing mana regeneration, so not quite as powerful as it used to be, but definitely still strong. And neither one appears to be too determined to leave the mid lane. PewDiePie has not yet upgraded his core item from Victor, and will probably look to do that soon, as each time he upgrades it, he does get to upgrade one of his abilities, and they're all very, very powerful, quite honestly. Both bot lanes approaching level 6 here. This is one of the big turning points. Both top laners already level 6, and I think this is the point in the matchup where Aurelia has to be especially careful, just because Jax can do so much sustained damage in one of those in a long extended engage. But of course, Aurelia, if she is opting to max that Equilibrium Strike, can also trade back very efficiently, and doesn't necessarily have to all in just because of the amount of CC that fully maxed Equilibrium Strike can give. Zerbic and Maya Matlife pushing out this lane here, maybe looking to go back, spend a little bit of their gold. Corki most likely going to rush that Triforce early. Sheen would be a huge buy, giving them a little bit more burst option and making their all-in a little bit safer. But of course, on the opposite side from Ethel, on Graves, we will see that early Infinity Edge, and that alone is going to, that 80 scaling alone combined with the Eye of the Storm from Biofrost is going to mean a lot of burst as well. Very bursty bot lanes. Meanwhile, in the jungle, Nightblue gonna donate that blue buff to Golden Glue. Golden Glue more than happy to take it. Golden Glue seeing Cutie Pie caught out, or a little bit out of position, is trying to all in here. May try to get a pick, does bring him back in. Cutie Pie is gonna get smited there. The last auto attack coming in from Golden Glue. The chilling smite, of course, used by Nightblue to get that slow off, and Golden Glue, good flash follow up. A little bit slow on that ball, but doesn't matter. Uses the flash, gets the kill, and Cutie Pie taken out early. Cutie Pie still has Ignite, however, may have a chance as he moves back into the lane here, but that early kill is going to play a huge advantage for Golden Glue. These mid-game team fights are going to be so very important, and when you have Fed Orianna, they're a lot easier. RF Legendary all-inning here, has to be careful with the true damage from Aurelia, almost enough to take him out, does get the kill. You can see that last little bit of minion damage, making it a 1-for-1 trade there, and I Am Matlife landing the hook, but not going to follow up. Golden Glue, with the help of Nightblue, is going to steal away that red buff. They do have a lot of members on the bottom side of the map, but it does not look like they're going to try to contest Dragon here. So, in the top lane, that 1-for-1 trade is going to be good for both sides. Not too important here. Both characters are very strong at this stage in the game. You can see, however, Aurelia has a little bit more sustain, and Jack, despite getting an immense amount of Nightblue opting to ult that camp. Interesting. Okay. I guess you got to use the ult for something. Despite Aurelia having good sustain and Jax having an absurd amount of resistances from his ultimate, those resistances aren't as relevant against Aurelia, who has a little bit of true damage from that hidden style. You can see Ethel playing much more confidently as he knows that I Am Matlife is backed. Also has level 6 here, and so can do a ton of damage. Zingy still struggling to clear his jungle in a lot of situations. Does have ultimate available though, and it looks like as we move forward, he is going to get, or it is going to get easier and easier for him to clear his jungle. 0, 1, and 0 though, not a great place for him to be. Out farming Nightblue on Pantheon, but of course Nightblue 1, 0, and 1 doing a lot more work for his team at this point. RF Legendary, fully aware that Aurelia is going to struggle to clear those waves, pushing her in 100%. Going to go down and probably try to take the Scuttle Crab or get vision elsewhere. I Am Matlife coming in from the side onto Ethel. Ethel immediately getting hooked. The quick drop, not enough. The Fox coming down as well. Zerbic trying to get as much damage off there as possible. And Ethel blowing his full combo, both the collateral damage and the buckshot, to get off as much damage on Zerbic as possible. Zerbic now at about half health, so despite the fact that the hook did come out, good play from Biofrost and good burst from Ethel means that overall that trade still went in their favor. RF Legendary going aggressive onto the site here. Does have that ultimate available, is going to burn it, try to survive. They do trade ultimates. This is very back and forth lane. Both players clearly very confident. The Psyche at this point about the same power level as Jack. He does have a little bit less farm, but not enough to be a noticeable difference, and it would appear that Nightblue's team is now moving down to take the Dragon. Cutie Pie's lineup will be able to spot this attempt out, especially with Ethel coming up to help, but it doesn't look like they're in any position to respond. Of course, Zingy's still not able to clear reliably, does have his ultimate available, may look to try to follow up here, but is not going to use it. Good play from Nightblue's team to see that and go for that. And RF Legendary trying to scare the Psyche away from backing, but the Psyche knows that if that Jax dives into tower range, that stun will come out quick. And there's nothing to do. Zingy moving here into this mid lane with that ultimate. May look to get the CC down. RF Legendary going aggressive in the top lane meanwhile. Everything getting thrown onto Golden Glue. Golden Glue using that shockwave to lock down both players. Golden Glue's gonna get stunned up here. Immediate ult from Cutie Pie. Zingy may go down to the Ignite, but Golden Glue will for sure go down to it. Nightblue going to pick up a kill there, making it a 1-for-1 exchange. Zingy way too low to come back to the fight. I Am Matlife not too scared of Nightblue, but does have to back off at least a little bit. Meanwhile, on the top lane, RF Legendary is going to get that kill onto the Psyche. The Psyche not performing quite as well in this matchup as he did against RF Legendary's Gnar in the last game. And RF Legendary starting to pull ahead very quickly. Now, one of the big things to consider is despite the fact that both these characters scale pretty evenly overall, once Jax gets that Triforce, or whoever gets that Triforce first, is going to have a huge advantage, because Sheen, which is one of the sole sources of burst damage in this in these exchanges, obviously that passive is doubled when you finish the Triforce, so that will play a huge difference here. Zingy clearing his own jungle, still going very low for these clears. This is not where he wants to be. He has functionally no completed items at this point, And Biofrost, however, is going to get caught out by Imaqtpie. Ethel is there for the follow-up. Nightblue is available with the ult. Is immediately going to ult into the box, so good box from Imaqtpie to disengage that fight. Ethel throwing down that smoke screen to make sure there's no follow-up, and Imaqtpie has to be careful here. He does still have vision on Nightblue, however, and it looks like nothing will come from that. 3 members committed now to the bottom side of the map. Nightblue did have to give up all for that exchange, but of course Imaqtpie burning both his flash and his ult in that situation means it is overall a positive trade. We will most likely see Nightblue gank that bottom lane again, simply because he knows that flash cooldown is down, but you know, if he doesn't, could be a little bit of an oversight on this part. One big thing to consider is this top lane. RF Legendary still has flash. The Psych definitely does not, so if Azingi wants to gank a lane and if Azingi wants to create pressure somewhere, top lane is a relatively easy place for him to get a bit of a gold advantage. RF Legendary already able to solo out the Psych, so with a little bit of help from Rengar, most likely will just be more power to him. And when you get this Jax rolling like it, he can solo carry games a lot of the way. And a lot of the ways that we saw Akali solo carry the last game. Both teams still even on gold, however. The big thing that is not taken into account from the gold, however, is the Dragon buff, which RF Legendary currently does not have, but the Psych does. The Psych immediately going to go down the 3-man dive. Zingy coming in for the assist, but not doing too much. PewDiePie adding a little bit of burst, and of course, at this point, RF Legendary just scaling up so very quickly. We are going to see RF Legendary and Zingy take down that top lane turret, but it is traded away for a mid lane turret as Golden opted to push in when PewDiePie did go top. Good decision making from both teams to follow up their kills with objectives, or their lack of kills in Golden Blue's case. Golden Blue immediately going aggressive on Imaqtpie. Has to be careful here. Imaqtpie does have the shield. Biofrost is there to follow up. Golden Blue gonna get stunned out, but PewDiePie has burned most of his mana in the top lane and also just doesn't have enough damage to follow up in that situation. No major cooldowns burned for Biofrost or PewDiePie, but Golden Blue did burn his ult already just to get that thresh kill. Nightblue's gonna follow up immediately. The stun does, or the slow does come out. Not gonna be enough. They do scout out that ward and immediately take down PewDiePie. RF Legendary, meanwhile, still applying pressure in the top lane. They are going to try to wait for the Psych on that Aurelia, but it doesn't look like anything's going to come of it. RF Legendary doing so much work in this matchup, but meanwhile, the rest of the team is dying left and right across the map. Good map movement from Nightblue's squad overall. Good pressure from Golden Blue. And Biofrost, more than happy to roam around with his team. More than happy to create huge map impact with the mana pick, but it looks like the Psych does get caught out by RF Legendary. And Azingi will go down to Nightblue, but Nightblue is most likely going to go down to RF Legendary as well, except for Biofrost is here to back him up, letting Zerbic farm in the bot lane while he roams around the map to make plays. Nightblue out of mana, but will get that guaranteed crit if the RF Legendary can get low enough. They have to play careful here. Nightblue not wanting to go down, but with Golden Glue on the backside, it doesn't look like RF Legendary is going to pick up that Nightblue kill or be able to escape. So, good play overall. Excellent use of Orianna, and excellent ult from Nightblue, playing very confidently, knowing the team would back him up. Biofrost, once again, more than happy to just let Zerbic farm in the bot lane. Zerbic now 129 CS, a little bit behind Corki, but doing incredibly well given that he's been farming solo for most of this time. Imaqtpie and Zerbic eager to dive him here, knowing that the support is not available, but it looks like Imaqtpie is actually going to go down here. Will Zerbic be able to kill Ethel? It doesn't even look like it. They have to be careful. This is Biofrost moving in from the back. Ethel trying to dash out after throwing the buckshot, but just the rocket range just a little bit too long, so a 1-for-1 trade overall there. Not at all what they wanted. However, Biofrost does see the rest of the team coming in and does have to back off as a result. PewDiePie squad more than happy to pick up this turret as a result. A lot of trades back and forth, and despite the fact that the kills seem to be going in the favor of Nightblue's squad, the objectives are definitely going in the favor of PewDiePie's team. They may try to take the dragon here. It is up in less than a minute now. They don't quite have the vision necessary, they do have the vision necessary to take it at this point, but, you know, with a minute left, how many of those wards are still going to be alive? They have that clever pink ward placed on the, right below their first tier turret, and that might, or right before the enemy first tier turret, and that alone might come in handy, except for Nightblue is going to take that out. Imaqtpie, ever eager for the hook, trying to throw it out for Biofrost. Biofrost sees that, no problem. Biofrost with Boots of Mobility combined with that Janna passive is going to be so fast. Going to be able to move around the map quickly, and given the amount of pressure he's put on every single lane, it's a very logical decision. Zingy moving into the mid lane. They are going to try to catch out Ethel here. The burst damage from PewDiePie coming in is going to do so much work there. Not even burning his ferocity after that initial toss, and Ethel, known to overextend. You know, one of the big weaknesses of this player, if there are any, is that Ethel frequently likes to push out just a little bit too far, and Zingy and Imaqtpie more than happy to punish him for it. RF Legendary, meanwhile, split pushing in the top lane, still does have a substantial advantage here, has the finished Triforce, and as I mentioned earlier, a pretty crucial power spike. Golden Blue A little bit of miscommunication there. Golden Glue and Biofrost canceling out each other's ultimates, and essentially RF Legendary going to go full bore here. Is exhausted immediately, does have to flash over the wall. The Psych did respond with a TP of his own. I am Matt Life going to get poked out. Does not, however, go down. The red buff still ticking, not going to be enough there. I am Matt Life walking out with less than 20 health. Very risky play. Neither team going to get anything from it. Golden Glue now out of mana, though. Biofrost similarly close, and Nightblue also probably enough for a single rotation. They have to be careful with this Jack, despite the fact that he's slow. He can do a lot here. The Psych not too scared, though. Immediately follows up with a huge amount of burst damage, and Nightblue, of course, more than happy to finish that off with a quick crit. So Nightblue's team will now look to get their second dragon, giving them a bit more damage in these situations. Nightblue's team, once again, looking so very confident in these fights. You know, really good communication for the most part, even with that misstep from Biofrost and Golden Glue, obviously trying to combine those two ultimates together. They did end up winning that fight for all intents and purposes. They are going to get the dragon off of this most likely. However, I am Malik now back after dropping so low. Is going to get took on Golden Glue. Golden Glue is doing this is a bad situation for them. I'm Imaqtpie throwing in a little bit of burst damage. Zerbic coming in from the side. Imaqtpie has to be careful here. Will go down to the Psych. The Psych so very powerful. Zingy is going to pick up the kill on Nightblue as well as the Psych. Zerbic doing as much damage as possible, is going to be able to take out Ethel here, and the Biofrost has to be careful. Zerbic looking instead to take the dragon. Also have to be careful of this though, as Zingy very low. Zerbic might not be able to do enough damage here. Zingy trying to get as much ferocity as possible, gonna heal up off of this, does burn his ultimate dragon, but that's no problem. They are going to get that first dragon at the attack boost. Of course, going to come in huge, and both teams just about even now, 11 to 12 in kills, 2 to 1 in towers, but 1 to 1 in dragons, and you know, small farm leads here and there, but nothing too substantial. So both teams matching up very evenly. Excited to see how this mid-game transition is going to work for the team. RF Legendary obviously playing very confidently. Once the rest of his team catches up to the point where he is at, I'm curious to see how these team fights are going to go. Biofrost, target for that Golden Glue ball, immediate shockwave, but I am Matt Life there to disengage with that Dark Passage. No problem. RF Legendary knew how to click the lantern. Nightblue giving that blue buff over to Golden Glue. No surprises there. Golden Glue going in that last fight was a huge problem for the team as a whole, and was part of the reason why they kind of got crushed there, just because Golden Glue didn't have any options, defensive or offensive, and Golden Glue burning his ult, as I mentioned earlier, very offensively in this game for 1 or 2 person CC, as opposed to saving it on a lot of those team fight situations. But no matter how long you save it, it's not really going to matter if you're so good on him for a lot of those uses, but it's maybe a poor decision to burn it in that mid lane against RF Legendary. RF Legendary has a little bit of sustain here from the Crystalline Flask, but not much outside of that. More than happy to push top lane, but is now even with the Psych at this point for all intents and purposes. Despite the Psych being 1, 5, and 4, they both do have that Triforce, and this matchup, long and bloody, but when Aurelia has that Equilibrium Strike, it's really hard to beat her in those situations, because Jax, despite being able to deny her most of her auto attacks, with that Counter-Strike, not really being able to match that CC Equilibrium Strike, having a much lower cooldown in most situations. The rest of Nightblue's team pushing down the mid lane, moving as 3, trying to get vision control on this side of the map. Biofrost and Golden Glue doing their best to work together to get out and get as much vision as possible. Golden Glue has opted for the chalice, as has Imaqtpie in this case, or the Unholy Grail rather. Both appear to be working on their death cap. Imaqtpie not opting to upgrade his item at all, instead moving forward towards either a death cap or a Zhonya's. Not quite clear which. They both have the needlessly large rod ready and available. Really excited to see this next team fight, especially. I'm really curious to see how this is going to work out for them. Obviously, Biofrost and Golden Glue doing their best to create vision control might mean that we won't get to see the 5v5 team fight that I'm excited about, but we might see a pick, which I think is going to play a huge part here. You see a Zingy moving into the top lane. Does have his ultimate available. Will they try to get another pick on the Psych? It could be a little bit of an aggressive decision, the Psych, obviously. Similar to RF Legendary in that he's going to take a lot to take down, but RF Legendary can do a lot of damage, and now that a Zingy has, you know, basically double brutalizers here, he's going to be able to burst through a lot of those resistances. Are they going to be able to take down the Psych here? They are, no problem. Both of them having to burn most of their cooldowns, but no issues there. Biofrost following up with a little bit of vision control, trying to make sure they're not still on the top side of the map, but the rest of the team is going to have to go to the mid lane to defend against Imaqtpie, Zerbic, and I am Matt Life. RF Legendary now going to push back into the top lane now that he sees how many resources have been committed to the mid lane. will split push out this tower. You know, this is the kind of RF Legendary play that I think RF Legendary likes especially. Last game he was forced into a little bit more of a team fighting role, and I think that didn't suit him as well. He likes these 1v1 situations. He likes these solo pushing. Is going to take that turret down. Has to be careful about dropping too low. Could get crit down, but Zingy is there for the follow-up. Provides the last little bit of damage necessary to take out Nightblue. Nightblue going down once again. Once a perfect record is now 6-2-3 for Nightblue. Still doing phenomenally, but he's not able to really match the damage output of a Jax and a Rengar. No surprises there. Ethel almost finishing that Youmuu's Ghostblade plus Infinity Edge. Definitely looking to win a lot of these dueling kind of situations. Youmuu's obviously a very strong dueling item. Definitely does not lend itself to sustain team fights for the short duration, but while it's available, it does make the character very, very powerful and gives you kind of a disproportionate amount of stats, a nice little power spike, if you will. RF Legendary, having secured that hour turret, is now moving towards the bot lane. Will most likely start to split push there as well. The risk, of course, of split pushing bot lane while Baron is available is that you kind of can give up your positioning on Baron, but RF Legendary does have TP available and is more than happy to take that chance in this situation because no one on the team at this point is going to be able to 1v1 him, even the Aurelia, now that he's finished that Bilgewater Cutlass. Cutie Pie finally opting to upgrade his abilities. Gonna make him a lot stronger in a lot of these team fights, give him a little bit more mobility or utility depending on what he decides to go with. But as he moves forward, that item is going to be very powerful. It has especially strong synergy with the Death Cap, just because of how much raw AP it gives you. And of course also a nice little bit of mana too, which will help get him through a lot of these team fights. Chalice, sometimes just not enough for a character that wants to spam abilities as much as Cutie Pie. Cutie Pie getting caught out with Zerbic. The double hit on that. Nightblue ready to follow up. Zerbic gonna have to leap away. Cutie Pie very, very low. The Psych teleported in and is on the way. Imaqtpie gonna do his best to disengage here. Does flash over the wall. All cooldowns burned for everyone who's participated. Ults going down left and right. Cutie Pie's team does successfully disengage, but they are in a bit of a tough spot here. Imaqtpie is gonna go in. Cutie Pie does get the follow up with the ult. The Psych almost immediately going to drop a Zingy, and just kind of a bloodbath there. Too much going on both sides, not able to keep up there. Sorry about that, guys. RF Legendary with the triple kill, and taking out Ethel, taking out Nightblue, no problems there. And RF Legendary and kind of Imaqtpie doing a lot of work to initiate that team fight. And of course, I'm a Cutie Pie with that massive amount of AoE damage coming in from Victor, doing so well. Golden Glue a bit too eager with the ult earlier, and the team as a whole kind of getting caught out, overextending into a situation where they did not have the cooldowns to fight a straight up 5v5 team fight, but RF Legendary and the rest of his team more than happy to engage that, knowing that those ults were on cooldown, and of course, just so much burst coming out from Cutie Pie. Now finishing that Death Cap, does have the cooldown boots as well as upgrades on the Victor's item, on that Hex Core, and then he's seen some Holy Grail, so tons of damage from Cutie Pie. Fantastic play, honestly, from Zerbic. I harked on him a little bit earlier just for his less than aggressive play with Imaqtpie, but now that these team fights have started happening, he seems to be much more comfortable in a 5v5 situation, and Ethel kind of just getting soloed out here, you know. Not in the best situation as Zingy, also similarly on his team, getting soloed out by the Psych. Not how they want it to be, but a Zingy taking all the focus of the Aurelia is an advantage to their team. Aurelia has a much greater responsibility, is much more likely for her to need to engage onto the back line, but when she's not there to do it, and Golden Glue doesn't have the cooldowns necessary to do it, the team fight is going to go south for them. 2k gold lead now for I'm a Cutie Pie squad. 3k, rather, as they move forward into this game. And they do both still have, it would appear they both still have one dragon apiece. And 2 dragons, sorry, for Cutie Pie's lineup, and 1 dragon, of course, for Nightblue's squad. So the second dragon, we'll give him a little bit of a buff to turret damage. That's going to come in huge for, mostly just for RF Legendary, who's going to try to split push for the majority of this game. But now that they have the distinct advantage after that team fight, RF Legendary is going to commit himself 100% to the bottom side of the map. They do see the team moving down there. They have to be careful. I'm a Cutie Pie squad is setting up for Baron. They cannot commit more than 1 member down to stop RF Legendary. If RF Legendary can solo the Aurelia in this case, he is going to be able to get that turret, and he might be able to get more after that. The Psych, of course, opting for Frozen Heart in this situation, trying to stop the Jax Snowball, but RF Legendary kind of balancing that out by finishing the Blade of the Rune King and getting just a bit more attack speed. So the Psych has to be careful. Can't go too aggressive here. Jax, of course, despite not being able to get through a lot of that armor, also does a significant amount of magic damage and just a lot of burst in general at this stage in the game. You can see as Zingy has finished the Warrior. Oh my gosh, the Zingy Not wandering into that bush, unlike QtPie and MattLife, immediately getting Golden Glue ulted. Both members getting taken down incredibly low. Are they going to be able to get anything from this, though? It looks like Golden Glue, once again, burning an ult, getting 2 people, getting them very low, but there is no follow-up from the team in that situation, and they're not able to get anything from that. So, despite Golden Glue playing very well, you know, maybe not the best decision for him to burn ult, but also could be that the rest of the team wasn't there to follow up. Nightblue not too eager to get over on the other side of that wall, obviously did not have flash available, or may have been able to follow up, so Golden Glue still not too worried about it. Has that 20% CDR from the Athenes and Holy Grail. Will get that ultimate up shortly. Should be up before they try to fight their next team fight. But, you know, if the team continues to not follow up when he engages like that, it's going to be a rough game for them because their engage options are very limited. You know, they have Nightblue, who can start the fight with a stun, and they have the Psyche who can start the fight with a stun, but both of those characters can get bursted down if the engage is not followed up on. And overall, no one else is really going to be able to jump into the fray other than Pantheon and other than Aurelia. Zerbic now 3-0-3, 262 farm to Ethel's 212. Ethel 3-4-2, not his best game. Clearly not as comfortable on Graves as Zerbic in a lot of these games. Zerbic doing very well on Corki. RF Legendary looks like he might get sold out here. The Psych going full heavy aggressive. Biofrost knocking up RF Legendary before the jump can fully connect. RF Legendary gonna get that kill there. The Monsoon not enough to stop that last auto attack. The 1-for-1 trade here. Thingy may go down. Golden Glue getting that ultimate that he wanted. Zerbic trying to solo Golden Glue, or sorry, Nightblue, and is going to do so successfully as Zingy making sure that Nightblue can't get in range to get that guaranteed crit, locking him down with that Bola. The team as a whole has to be careful here, though. The Psych is nearby. Psych may get this kill onto a Zingy, but Zerbic just doing so much damage, you know. That Infinity Edge plus the Triforce doing a ton of work. Not too worried about the Frozen Heart for Aurelia at this point, just because of how much of his damage is spell-based. Very powerful Corki, very scary Corki, and good identification from a Zingy to realize that Corki has the damage output there to shut down Aurelia and to just keep her locked down as much as possible with those bolas. So a Zingy, despite sort of an assassin kind of build with that Yomu's Ghostblade and that Warrior Enchantment, is kind of resigned to defending Zerbic in a lot of these situations. I am MattLife, much more engage focused, 0, 5, and 10 from him. Not quite the performance we've seen in the back. Meanwhile, in the past. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, Biofrost is 1, 2, and 9. Doing phenomenally this game. Has the Mikhail's Crucible. Will stop her team from being locked up for too long. And if Golden Glue can land more ults like that on such squishy characters, you know, right now it may not be killing them, but as they move into the late game, that 200, 300 health isn't going to be enough, especially as Golden Glue has now finished that Void Staff, does have the magic penetration, does have the insane amount of AP from Death Cap as well. Nightblue was hoping to catch out RF Legendary, and doesn't look like it's going to happen. RF Legendary level 16 to the Psych's level 14. So RF Legendary doing incredibly well. 8, 4, and 3. Almost always 1-for-1 trading in these situations. Kind of pulling a Zion Spartan. You know, you send 3 to the top to gank him, and he's always going to get 1 or 2 kills. It doesn't really matter what you commit. RF Legendary playing a little aggressive here. It might get caught out. Nightblue hesitating as he goes around the corner. Doesn't have vision. Does not attack move. The Psych going to get that slow off. Hoping the rest of the team can follow up. Is Zingy going to throw out the slow, stopping Nightblue once again from getting in. Biofrost playing very aggressive on the front line. Does burn the Frostmoon Claims. Not going to get anything from it, though. Now both teams are moving into the jungle. May look to get a team fight. QtPie's lineup, though, appears to be turning their attention towards the mid lane. Will try to pick up this mid lane turret as quickly as possible. Need to be careful. The Psych is on the outside of the team fight, but Nightblue is going to ult in. Will they be able to get QtPie? QtPie not able to get anything off yet. Does get killed before he can get any of his cooldowns off. I am MattLife dropping very low, though. He's going to get picked up by the guaranteed Nightblue crit. A Zingy getting chased out here. Zerbic on the back line, able to toss him a little bit of damage, but not enough to save anyone on his team. All 5 members from Nightblue squad still up. Excellent fight from them. Golden Glue bringing in the burst damage necessary to take out QtPie before he could have the team fight impact he needed to have. And of course, RF Legendary, as always, strong, unkillable. Golden Glue flashing in for that auto attack. The Ignite will the last tick kill. It doesn't look like it. Our Zerbic escaping with just a tick of life, and the team is now going to be able to take Baron uncontested. And also RF Legendary feels like getting aggressive. Is going to go in the team fight. The team will still get Baron. The Psych is immediately going to jump over the wall. Does have the ball there attached to him. Does have the Eye of the Storm for that a little bit of extra AD. RF Legendary knows he's in trouble here. Tries to turn and fight, but it's too little, too late. Both teams using that, or sorry, Nightblue squad using that improved recall to get back as quickly as possible. Now, you know, what was once a gold lead against them, they are now up 1K for themselves. So turning those fights in their favor very quickly. Golden Glue consistently landing the necessary ults. Now with the follow-up from the team that he needed in the past. And of course, Biofrost 1, 2, and 13 continuously doing exactly what he needs to do in these team fights. Immediately the team is transitioning this to a dragon as Zingy burning the ultimate there. May try to engage something here, but they have to be careful. As Zingy jumping immediately in the center is going to get the dragon. They do get the third dragon bust, increase that movement speed, but the Psyche is already on their back line, trying to do a little bit of damage here to Matlife. Matlife going to go to the Krugs, but unfortunately leaving Zerbic on his own. Biofrost speeding in here. May try to get the slow off from the Frost Team's claim. It is available. Matlife and Zerbic backing off successfully, though, hooking onto the Krugs for a little bit of sight, and looks like they will pick that up. And the Golden Glue, though, will take that first tier turret, and it looks like they may try to transition this into a second tier turret. Nightblue will have his ultimate available shortly, but meanwhile is pushing down the mid lane. Looks like he might get caught out by Nightblue here, or by RF Legendary here. RF Legendary doing so much damage, does have the elixir, giving him extra tenacity, and health is going to go down very quickly to Cutie and RF, and meanwhile the rest of the team members pushing with that empowered Baron into the bot lane. However, they are going to back off as they've seen that Nightblue has gone down. I don't know if they needed to do that, but it doesn't look like they want to give anything up, and it looks like they want to play as defensive as possible, giving a lot of respect to RF Legendary and a lot of respect to the Cutie lineup overall. Both sides appear to be still emphasizing their ward control around Dragon. A lot of that is still remaining from Nightblue's earlier Dragon fight. RF Legendary it doesn't look like he has a way to get over the wall at this point, and it looks like he will go down to the Psyche. Does have red buff right now, but that will be quickly transferred over. RF Legendary finally able to jump to that pink ward. Biofrost flashing in to get the slow off. Has to be careful here, though. The Psyche not able to do a whole lot. RF Legendary jumping away to the Crab. Crab saving the day, and the Psyche auto-attacking it a few times with frustration as RF Legendary somehow does manage to escape. So tanky with that elixir, and obviously with his ultimate available as well, he's able to resist so much damage. You can also see that he has finished that cowl as well as that Warden's Mail, so the 1v1 situation for Aurelia is starting to go a little bit more in his favor. Aurelia building pure tanky after a Triforce, just not able to survive a lot more in a lot of these situations, but not able to keep up with the damage that RF Legendary is dishing out as Jax. The team moving as a whole, they know they have vision control on the side of the map. Biofrost using that the brief Oracle's trinket to get a little bit more vision control to clear out the wards on the top side of the map, and now they're eager to take out this other second tier turret. They do still have Baron as an advantage. They do still have those empowered minions coming up behind them, so if they fight as 5, it should go in their favor generally. They do have to be careful with this Victor, though. The Psyche moving in, functioning as that front line, though, does still have Banshee's Veil. Victor not going to do a whole lot there. The Psyche is opting to back, however, because they do need to stop the RF Legendary split push. RF Legendary more than happy to trade a turret for a turret if he can. This is going to quickly turn into a 1v1, and RF Legendary doing so much damage to that turret. Will he be able to take it out? It looks like it. So the Psyche looks like they may try to engage. They don't know that his Zingy is on the way, however, they do not have sufficient vision control. The Psyche going to stun out RF Legendary immediately. RF Legendary going to block as much of that as possible. Ethel taking out Imaqtpie with the help of Golden Glue. They are going to try to take out the Psyche here. The Psyche doing her best to run away. Not going to get anything going down. And meanwhile, it looks like Nightblue squad is going to take out the inhibitor in response. So, but RF Legendary and his Zingy will take out an inhibitor on their side as well. The rest of the team backing out and continuing to push into the base. Golden Glue zoning to make sure that they can get the safe backs that they want. Gonna get the hook on the Ethel, though, and RF Legendary and his Zingy are going to get this inhibitor, trading 1-for-1 in the inhibitors. RF Legendary, member of Trick2G's team through and through, is going to split push that out with some help from his Zingy. Good movement from his Zingy to get that 2v1 situation. Good response from Nightblue's team that realized Zingy was missing and follow up in that 4v3 on their side. And both teams, trading an inhibitor. This game looks like it's ready to go late. 60k gold lead on the side, or 60k gold on the side of Imaqtpie, 63 on the side of Nightblue. Still have a bit of a lead, but 6 to 7 in turrets, not a huge difference at this point. And when you're this late in the game, small gold leads like that tend not to make quite as big of an impact. At this point, we're much more concerned about the Dragons. Nightblue squad, of course, only having 1. The 3 on the opposite side is Zingy playing fully aggressive here. RF Legendary going to go pretty hams as Zingy wants to leap over the wall, but does not have, doesn't want to flash over and doesn't have any way to leap at this point, unfortunately. They will just clear out the jungle there. They are going to have to give that up, and Ethel more than happy to get out of that situation alive. Golden Glue finishing up his Zanyas, is going to have a few more defensive options in this team fight. Cutie Pie, not scared of getting blown up, despite the fact that it's happened to him in a couple of these fights. Has not finished his Zhonya's yet, although it looks like he may be on the way. Also hasn't opted to upgrade the item anymore. Ultimate Hex Core, of course, would give him a substantial damage boost, but Zhonya's a much more important buy at this stage in the game. One thing I do want to note is that we've consistently seen Golden Blue picking up pink wards, which have come in kind of huge for the team as a whole. That vision game, just so impressive. The Psych, I am Matt Life, of course, landing the hook, but the hook pretty meaningless when they have that Banshee's Veil available. The Psych more than happy to just take the ward away while that flies at him. Golden Blue now pushing down. He does have that sorcery buff from the elixir, so he's going to be able to do a lot of damage, has a lot of cooldown reduction, and pretty much always ready to fight in these situations. More than happy to attach the ball to Nightblue as Nightblue engages, or the Psych. They do have that pink ward set out there. They don't want to give the enemy team any vision control. Nightblue is going to ult in the back. PewDiePie has to be careful there. He's immediately zoned out for the fight. Is going to be taken out before he can do anything. As Zingy running into the back line. Going to try to take out Golden Blue, but is immediately exhausted by Biofrost. Biofrost taking hurt for the team as a whole. RF Legendary going to try to go in on Nightblue, is going to be blown up. The Shockwave does not land, unfortunately, on him, so they aren't going to be able to get anything from that. The Super Minions are still pushing in the bottom wave, so they have to back off to clear those out. Pink Ward still available, no enemy vision present there. They know that they are safe to take this tower. Biofrost more than happy to burn Monsoon to get this tower down. It's like going in for a little bit of damage. RF Legendary did have Home Guard, so is going to go full aggressive into this team fight. Nightblue very low. RF Legendary, similarly very low, is going to go down. Biofrost and Ethel still up. Golden Blue behind them, providing as much support as possible. They have to be careful here. Zervik in the backline going to try to kill Golden Blue. Golden Blue does still have Zhonya's, I believe. Does also have the shield, of course, as well. So the good movement from the team as a whole. They may be able to get an inhibitor down as well here. And of course, PewDiePie is going to be up right about now, though. Does have Home Guard boots. May try to contest it, but it looks like they're going to get it and get out before he can do much of anything. PewDiePie still eagerly on the hunt, but is going to have to back off as that tornado comes out. Nightblue's team now looking to pick up their second dragon after picking up their second inhibitor. What was once a substantial gold deficit, about 3k into the early game, is now a gold lead, 4k, almost 5k for Nightblue squad. And of course, 2 to 3 on dragons, not going to be a huge deal there. They're more than happy to take a little bit of extra damage to the tower, but overall the team just wanting to deny that from PewDiePie's lineup. Getting the 5th dragon still could be PewDiePie's way to get back into this game. Of course, Zervik in that team fight trying so very hard to take out Golden Glue, but Golden Glue kind of a monster in this game. 5, 4, and 20, contributing to the majority of his team's kills. Almost complete kill participation, only not there for 4 of them. Nightblue similarly as well, doing very well to be aggressive in all of these team fights. The team working better together as a whole, which is, you know, makes a lot of sense given that RF Legendary spent a lot of time split pushing. RF Legendary, though, approaching that late game unstoppable Jack status as he finishes more magic resistance. Golden Glue won't be able to burst him down quite as quick, but he really has to be careful about how he picks his engages, because the team will back off and burn all of their cooldowns to take him out, because the majority of their gold is in Corki and it's in Jax. And so if they can take out the Jax, they can surely win a team fight, and they can be patient, and they can just push out a tower. Golden Blue's team more than happy to give up a little bit of positioning on Baron here to push out this mid lane. One last inhibitor left. If they can get this down, it will be GG for sure. The team appears to know that, though. PewDiePie's team appears to know that, though, is going to back off that Baron. Baron, of course, one way the PewDiePie team can get back in this, but they have to be careful about how they approach this. The next team to die, you know, this is kind of game point for them. If they die, this is game over, and Zervik is going to get aggressive on there. This is not the team fight they wanted, though. A Zingy and RF Legendary in the middle of their backline. Ethel's going to go down very quickly here. RF Legendary taking a lot of damage. He's going to get hit by the shockwave. Does go down. Similarly, whoa. They also are going to give up Nightblue and Golden Glue as well, though. So overall, win for PewDiePie's team. They didn't want to let that Rengar into the backline. They didn't want to let that Jax into the backline, but it does happen anyway. Good ult from Golden Glue to try to disengage RF Legendary as long as possible. But in the end of the day, not what they needed at all. Swinging back this game in the favor of PewDiePie's lineup. They do still have a 2k gold deficit, so a lot of that is going to be made up by this Baron here. And that Baron buff is going to make the next 2 minutes of this game, or next 3 minutes of this game, an absolute nightmare for Nightblue's squad as a whole. They have to be very careful about getting engaged on as Zingy, obviously performing phenomenally well in that Rengar. This assassin kind of style build working out very well for him. 18 stacks now on that Bone Tooth necklace. Once he gets to 20, that ult is obviously going to gain so much in utility. And PewDiePie doing a lot of AoE damage, and of course RF Legendary eager as always to help carry these team fights. Zervik left mostly alone in the backline, meant he could just dish out all the damage he needed to. You can see now he has that Last Whisper, he has that Bloodthirster, Infinity Edge, Triforce, and now a QSS as well. That's going to be one hard Corki to kill. Meanwhile, Graves on the other side did have QSS, did burn it in the last fight, but it just didn't look like enough, you know. And Youmuu's not really comparable to Triforce. as far as damage output, even on a Graves. So a little bit of a rough stretch here for Nightblue's team. Do still have one inhibitor down, but might not be enough for them at this point, especially with those Baron buffed up minions. RF Legendary probably will try to split push that out once again, leaving the rest of his team to fight. One of the big weaknesses of Pie's squad, of course, is that they lack a lot of disengage options. Thresh, of course, able to give peel, but nothing really compares to that Monsoon from Janna, so they do have to be careful about getting caught out without RF Legendary on the side of the team, but RF Legendary at this point in the game will most likely be able to solo kill anyone, and so we'll be able to continue the split push indefinitely. I am Mad Life looking for a pick here. May go down to Golden Blue. Is getting bursted down pretty quickly there. Is going to go down. No decisive engage from the rest of the team. Rengar burning that Zomia, or that Yomu is not going to do them a whole ton of favors. The Psych, of course, has picked up that Elixir. Does have a little bit more tenacity in the situation. Functionally immune to CC on that Aurelia pick in team fights. RF Legendary happy to push out the bottom lane. Nightblue squad still has that 2k gold advantage, feeling very confident after taking out Mad Life and pushing down the mid lane. RF Legendary hesitating on that back there, might cost them this turret, will cost them this turret, will cost them another though. Will the team be confident enough to push this down? In a lot of situations, just like, looks like he wants to move with the rest of the team on over to that open inhibitor, getting that taken down. RF Legendary and a Zingy, the tanky frontline that they need. Those Zerbic, of course, backing them up with so much damage. Is this the team fight that they want? Both teams kind of hesitating here. Pie chunking out the Psych very nicely. The Psych using that movement speed trail to help his team out as much as possible, waiting for the right opportunity to go in, and the rest of the team playing very cautiously here. They don't want to engage when the enemy team has Baron if they can avoid it. They do now have about a 3k gold lead though after that last team fight, so despite the fact that Pie caught up for the most part, he is now falling behind again. Dragging up in a minute and 20 seconds, Pie's lineup pinging it out, knowing that they need vision control. Will try to take the Scuttle Crab here as well as drop down a couple of wards for sure. Biofrost knows this as well, is going to get a little bit of preliminary vision, but doesn't want to extend too far into the enemy team. Risking a lot, of course, if he goes down. The only form of disengage that his team has. Both teams have approached their late game status. Going to do so much work in these fights. And the next fight will most likely decide the game. You know, the next ace is going to be enough. We are at 44 minutes now. The death timers will be substantially longer than at any other point in the game. And, you know, if someone gets aced here, this game will end. And RF Legendary looks like he wants to take the strategy to split pushing once again. But the rest of the team, knowing that Dragon is up shortly, wants to invade this jungle, wants to get as much down as possible. A Zingy using that ult to get as much sight as possible. RF Legendary looks like he's ready to zone these team members out. Biofrost going to disengage that fight. A Zingy jumping back to the bush to get reset the lead. I am Mad Life going to get Nightblue here. Just like going in full aggressive. RF Legendary zoning out Ethel and Golden Blue. Ethel and Golden Blue committing way too much to this. RF Legendary not too scared, going to run back to the team. It's like going to take out, or try to take out RF Legendary. Is going to flash in there to finish it off. He may go down here. Zerbic having to flash out of the fight as well. Pie getting exhausted will go down. This like doing so much work in this fight. Ethel taking out I am Mad Life, no problem. Triple kill for Graves. Ethel doing so well. Nightblue here trying to follow up. Zerbic will have his Valkyrie available in just a few seconds. Will try to get away. The speed up coming in from Golden Blue is real. And it looks like instead of getting that Corki kill, they are just going to snag this inhibitor. Nightblue, maybe not, looking a little eager, wants to run in front of those rockets, wants to jump in there, looking for a misstep from Zerbic. The team as a whole now may look to end this game. They have a lot of shield options here. The Psych, of course, still very tanky, despite looking like he's at low health, has a lot of defensive stats. They are going to take out this turret, tanking it through, and the aggression from Ethel is going to get him the kill onto Zerbic, and that looks like it's going to be GG. Good game from Nightblue's team. 2-0 for the evening. This is their second and final game for the night, final game for the week as well. Playing so phenomenally well. Both teams a very back and forth game. 45 minutes at the end of the day, though. A 8K gold lead for Nightblue squad, and